Rigid Motion Transformation Lesson 4, Mirror Mirror, Reflections of Figures on the Coordinate Plane. Today we're going to reflect geometric figures on the coordinate plane. We're going to identify and describe the effect of geometric reflections on two-dimensional figures using coordinates. So let's get started. So remember that a reflection flips an image across a line of reflection. So with a line of reflection, we can look at our y-axis and our x-axis. So an image on the coordinate plane is reflected across the y-axis, then the value of the x-coordinate of the image is opposite of the x-coordinate of the pre-image. So that means that we start off with our original point, x, y, and if we're reflecting over our y-axis, that means that our x just becomes opposite of our x value, and then y stays the same. So let's look at an example. So for example, we have a quadrilateral ABCD. We see that A is at 3, 2, B is at 2, 5, C is at 5, 7, and D is at 6, 1. So now, if I wanted to reflect this quadrilateral across the y-axis, I want to find out what the new coordinates are. So since that was my pre-image, now that I know that this is going to be my new image, this is going to be A prime, B prime. These are the coordinates that I'm trying to find out. C prime and D prime. So these are the coordinates I want to find out. So let's see. So remember that it says that it's the opposite of x. So A is at 3, 2. So the opposite of 3 is negative 3. The 2, our y value stays the same. For B, it's 2, but the opposite of 2 is negative 2. Our y value, 5, stays the same. For C, our x value is 5, so the opposite 5 is negative 5. Our y value 7 stays the same. And our D, our 6, the opposite of 6 is negative 6. And our y value stays the same, so it's 1. So these are our new coordinates. So I'm going to classify points. So A prime is at negative 3, positive 2. B is at negative 2, positive 5. C is at negative 5, positive 7. And D is at negative 6, positive 4. So now I'm going to connect my points. And I made my quadrilateral, but of course I want to label my points as well. So this one is A prime, this is B prime, C prime, and D prime. So now you see that I reflect it across, and I want to highlight this so you can see it. I reflect it across my y-axis. Now when an image on the coordinate plane is reflected across the x-axis, the value of the y-coordinate of the image is opposite of the y-coordinate of the pre-image. So that's like saying we start at our original point, and if we're reflecting over our x-axis, our x stays the same, but our y becomes the opposite of that value. So let's look at an example. So of course we have our coordinate, we have our quadrilateral ABCD, and it says that we have it at A is at 3, 2, B is at 2, 5, C is at 5, 7, and D is at 6, 1. So we're going to reflect across the x-axis. So remember, our x-axis is right here, so we're going to reflect across this line. So let's figure out what these coordinates are. So I know that this is going to be a new image. So since this is a new image, this is going to be A prime. So we need to find those coordinates. B prime, C prime, and D prime. So we need to find these coordinates. So A is at 3, 2. So we know that our x value stays the same, and our y value becomes the opposite. So this becomes negative 2. For B, our x value stays the same. Our y value becomes the opposite. So that becomes negative 5. For C, our x value stays the same, which is 5. And then our y value is the opposite, so this becomes -7. And then our d, our x value stays the same. And then our 1 is the opposite, so this becomes -1. So here are my new coordinates. So now I want to plot. So I'm going over 3 down to -2, over 2 down to -5, over 5 down to -7, and over 6 down to -1. So now I want to connect my points. And of course, I want to label my points as well. So this is going to be my A prime, B prime, C prime, and D prime. So now you can see that I reflected across my x-axis, and there is my new image with my new coordinates. Thanks for tuning in to Rigid Motion Transformation Lesson 4, Mirror, Mirror, Reflections of Figures on the Coordinate Plane. Have a great rest of your day.